And we are back with another.
Little old podcast from Pasadena.
I am your co-host Victor Cass, retired police sergeant with over 30 years experience, all with the Pasadena, California Police Department. And my co-host is.
The historian Alyse.
Yes, and we talk about all things related to Pasadena, history, arts, culture, pop, the rare and unusual and bizarre.
All things Pasadena.
All things Pasadena. And what do we have today on the docket?
So, there was this study. I think it was a few years ago.
Kind of like a survey.
Survey.
Ranking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we came in number one because we're the best.
Is it like the best museums? Was it the best?
No, we're the snobbiest city.
That's right. Yes. I don't know if any of you guys remember that article. I think it was, a little bit tongue in cheek, but it ranked the top 10 snobbiest cities in the United States, and of course, Pasadena got number one on this one popular top 10 list.
So in their list, they took certain things. They had certain criteria,
metrics,
right?
Right.
For how expensive the homes are, how many private schools there are. Of course, we have a lot. Like country clubs. For some reason, we have a shit ton of country clubs. What else? Museums, art galleries.
Yeah.
So the question is, so they declared us the number one snobbiest city.
I remember when I first saw that article, I thought to myself, I always knew we were better than everybody else.
I know, that's what I thought. But apparently some Pasadenans are upset, no, that should be Beverly Hills.
Why?
What?
You're getting a little up in arms about being ranked the snobby cities, you're probably a snob.
You might be a little, you might be a little snobby.
Yeah, I think it was more of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek poll article, but yes, we did get number one. But it brings up a good point, and that is, what makes Pasadena so awesome and amazing that Pasadenans are so, biased about their own city. They're such a beloved hometown. People hardly ever leave Pasadena, and they do. They always come back.
We're the snobbiest because we're the best. It kind of makes sense.
Yes, we do have a lot of cultural institutions. We have a lot of museums. We have the granddaddy of all college football bowl stadiums. We have a lot of famous stuff in Pasadena.
And when you think of education, we have so many different schools, and we have Caltech. Think of all the Nobel Prize winners from Caltech.
Nobel Prize here in Pasadena.
Literal rocket scientists.
Rocket scientists
at JPL.
I think we might have had a little hand in the Manhattan Project there. Famous people have lived here. Famous people have visited here. Presidents of the United States, as we pointed out in our last episode, have come to our wonderful city. And apparently we have an unusual amount of famous billionaires and millionaires from around the nation who had their winter homes here in Pasadena, and they contributed to the building of these lush estates and gardens everywhere. And I think one of these homes, these gardens, piqued your interest recently, and you want to talk about it.
It did. And it's interesting because Pasadena, speaking of the snobbiness, I feel like ever since its beginning, there was Los Angeles, which was there first. But all the rich people from Los Angeles, they didn't necessarily want to live in Los Angeles. They wanted to live in Pasadena.
Yeah, they might have their office in Los Angeles.
They worked in Los Angeles. They raised their kids in Pasadena.
Yes, very true.
So I feel like since we began, we were snobby in that sense.
Probably, yeah.
And this particular home came to mind recently because part of it is for sale.
Today, right now?
Today, for sale. I saw an ad for it. It blew my mind because I never thought I would be able to see the inside of this house. We're talking about, speaking of snobby things, Busch Gardens, which was a Wonderland, Disneyland sort of place that existed way back in the day. No more.
Yes. This is Adolphus Busch's estate?
Yes.
He was a beer magnate,
Yeah,
right?
from Anheuser. How do you say that?
Anheuser Busch.
How would an
Um,
American say that? Anheuser.
Anheuser-Busch. He's one of the big Midwestern guys.
Yeah.
Did he go to his brewery? Was that his brewery? Or was that the other brewery?
No, that was Pabst.
That was
But he was
Pabst.
German. Like he was often in Germany.
Germans love the beer.
Yeah.
They're the big beer guys. Of all the rich old guys from the Midwest, there's always the Germans that were doing the beer.
Mhm.
So Bush had one of his fancy estates here in Pasadena. It's in the southwest corner of town. You can still see some streets down there. Several streets named after Bush and his gardens there. I think one of the streets is actually called
Busch Gardens. Yeah. Mhm.
And you can still see some remnants of the estate today. There's still some little
Yeah.
areas you can see today.
So Bush built. I'm not. There are like actual experts on Busch Gardens, and I've always been fascinated, but I don't know like all the details. I think it kind of started with Bush's house, and it was covered in ivy, and like all of Busch Gardens were like covered in ivy. It was like this ivy wonderland. So some of the things that they're saying you can still see today if you're walking through these neighborhoods is the like remnants of the ivy going through. The tea house that they built for Busch Gardens is the one that is for sale now. So, Bush had his house kind of like up above. They're famous for being sunken gardens. They were like in the slopes of the Arroyo.
He has like different levels in his garden too.
Yeah, there were like upper gardens and lower gardens. This place was 38 acres of grounds, 14, 15 miles of walkways. They had waterfalls. They had like ponds.
Did they have peacocks roaming around?
They did have peacocks. I'll get to the peacocks. Okay, so this tea house is for sale now. It looks, I don't know what they were trying to design it as. I think they were trying to go for like an English sort of vibe, but it actually looks a little bit German. This water, they have a big water wheel that I don't think is even used for anything on the side of it, but it was their tea house. It was like a private residence on the grounds of Busch Gardens. But it looks like a fairy tale land. All of Busch Gardens looks like a fairy tale land. They had little dioramas of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs set up.
What's the asking price for this place right now? That's they're selling.
Like it was like 1.7 or something. Jesus. It was out of my price range. Unfortunately.
Check my banks. I get along.
I know. If there are any very wealthy Pasadenans listening and you're interested in buying this little place for me, I promise I will turn it into a very good museum of some sort.
Yes, you will too.
I will do that. So, just keep that in mind if you're watching. Yeah, so there was this place. There's also remnants of like little fountains that you can see, remnants of a ticket booth that you can still see. What's interesting is that when these gardens opened, they were open to the public, like for free. Like anyone could just walk in there and hang out. And it wasn't until like 1921, I believe, that Mrs. Bush, because Adolphus died, I think, in like 1913. Mrs. Bush took over management of the place, and she gave it to like the soldiers, the American Legion. Right. So the American Legion took it over.
This was just after World War One.
Yeah.
Returning servicemen coming back.
And the problem always had been with these gardens was how to like manage it and keep up with it, because it was so big and it cost so much money. And so I think she was ready to like turn it over anyway. So she gave it to the American Legion. And so she gave them permission to start charging. I think it was like 25 cents for adults, 10 cents for kids to get in and walk around. Yeah. And I think that was how the American Legion then like made the money to like keep up with it. By the 1930s, the Depression, there were like no one visiting it. I think it even closed briefly in the 20s because of low attendance. They reopened. Yeah, for sure it was gone in the 30s. They offered it to the city.
And the city
twice. Yeah. And just I want to time travel just to like have a word with these. Imagine if Busch Gardens still existed.
Yeah, it would be an amazing place. I've seen old black and white photos of the estate, and it was definitely one of the more pronounced, winter residences of these Midwestern tycoons. It was a very beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
I also recall, I seem to recall this from my memory, and you guys out there who are like my age or older may know that there was a kind of an amusement park, like a SeaWorld or Disneyland place called Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
It wasn't here in Pasadena, it was farther south.
They have several of them actually.
Yeah, and I remember going there with my parents when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That closed down like in the 70s or something.
Yeah, there were several after this Busch. The Pasadena one I think was the original,
Yeah.
inspired the others. They filmed a ton of movies at Busch Gardens too. Gone with the Wind,
Oh, really?
The Adventures of Robin Hood, Jekyll and Hyde was filmed there.
Oh.
I'm blanking on the other, like top movies.
I want to know about
We're
the
filmed
peacocks.
Okay. So yeah,
So I know we have
this
the
was a
peacocks.
question I
Go
had.
on, read them. Run.
I read an article. What year was it? 1911. They posted this in one of the Pasadena newspapers. They're like, peacocks from Busch Gardens have gotten out into the neighborhoods and they're just walking around. And so they said, we will give you a reward if you like wrangle these peacocks back, or like at least hold them in place until we can come get them. There's a reward for returning these peacocks back to Busch Gardens.
Huh.
But this raised a question. Is this where all the peacocks in Pasadena come from? Turns out no.
Say, I don't think they're from here. They're from India.
No, absolutely. They're from India. But I read that Lucky Baldwin over in Arcadia,
Figures.
he initially brought them over from India, as you said. And so that's why over in Arcadia there's a ton. Explain to me all of the peacocks that are in Pasadena, though, and San Marino.
Well, I mean, San Marino and Pasadena are just right next door to Arcadia. They could have just walked around.
They could have.
They kind of hop and fly.
They could have, yes.
Yeah.
But now we know there were stray peacocks at Busch Gardens. Who knows how many of them? How many of them escaped and bred in the Arroyo?
Yeah.
Are there still peacocks running around the Arroyo? I think there are.
I've never seen one down there.
In San Marino, there are.
I may have seen one like on Arroyo Boulevard, but again, it's a little rare to see them here in this area as opposed to, I mean, all the neighborhoods in Arcadia, you can see peacocks roaming around everywhere. You know?
Yeah, I know.
We're there. But it's interesting with the peacocks. It kind of reminds me of the ostriches down the Costa Ostrich Farm in South Pasadena. Like, who's bringing those guys in there?
I mean, I used to work over in Arcadia, and yeah, they were definitely a nuisance, and so I understand why some people hate them. I kind of love them; they're pretty.
They're very pretty. Pretty birds.
But
they are kind of annoying.
They are.
Yeah, they make a lot of weird noises. They poop everywhere, and they just multiply like rabbits.
There's a lot of them, and I saw a lot of rainbow-colored puddles of peacock smudge when they got hit by the car, which, by the way, you do not want to do because the fine is like thousands of dollars or something insane like that.
Yeah, don't over.
And this was in the news lately. The albino peacock of Pasadena.
Oh yes, this was a Pasadena peacock, right? It's all white.
He's all white. He's called Sugar or something.
Apparently, the U.S.
On the
Postal
east side.
Service is getting into some kind of trouble regarding this peacock.
Yeah, there's a video. You see this guy. He's getting out of his mail. Like, he got in his car. He was fine. Like, the peacock wasn't attacking him. He got out and started to start throwing things and, like, hitting it with things.
I guess part of his punishment, I remember back, the day when I was a cop here in Pasadena, sometimes, officers had to go to, like, sensitivity training. We had, all kinds of different in-service training to help us, be better police officers out in the field. I think this postal guy might have to go to, like, animal awareness training or animal sensitivity. They said something about that. I'm being serious.
I was smiling, waiting to see what joke you came up with.
No, this is a true story. I think I saw the news that this guy, this postal
animal
guy,
sensitive.
one of the his punishment or whatever is he has to go to some kind of like animal sensitivity awareness.
So I read that they're going to move him to a different neighborhood where he doesn't have to deal with so many peacocks. But okay, so my thing is like, this guy is mentally disturbed. Maybe we should send him to anger management classes before we do anything else.
We're not mental health professionals. She's just kidding everybody.
That guy needs to go to therapy. I promise you, if you're going to get out and attack just an innocent peacock, you need anger management.
He's going through.
No,
But-
peacocks are annoying. They're not so annoying that you just like beat the shit out of them. If you are beating the shit out of a peacock, you need help. You need therapy.
Alyse gets very indignant about these kind of news stories.
Indignant because who beats the shit out of a
We
peacock?
don't know the full story.
My thing is, how's this guy not
let's-
fired for
Let's
it?
let the internal investigation run its course. is what I
Okay,
say.
but like it's a bad look to be like kicking peacocks. Would you not want to fire someone who's
You know,
kicking
the Postal
peacocks?
Service, they got a little black eye over this. But again, I trust that they have a very robust internal review system.
You
in
trust the
place.
government? So you should know not to trust them.
Anyway, harder. But yeah, so anyway, that's kind of, we talked about Busch Gardens and the and kind of our snobby heritage.
Mhm. Oh, there was a holdup at Busch Gardens I read of in the because I love to look through all the old newspapers.
We did have a true crime podcast, so we had the whole crime in here.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look for the year. 1921. There were these 5 kids walking around at the bottom. They were described as youths. Whatever.
Youths.
Youths.
Yeah.
Damn youths. Walking down
Two
the
little
bottom
delinquents
of
snubbed out.
Busch Gardens. And this car pulls up. And they're robbed. All 5 of these kids. I think there's two guys in the car and they have a gun. One of the kids gets pistol whipped. Some of the kids, like one girl, she like took off her ring, she like threw it in the grass to save it and it was spared. Another guy kind of flung his watch into the gardens and it, recovered it later. But after that happened, the guys got in their car, they took off. The men of this group hailed a taxi and said, "Follow that car." They chased after and then they lost him because the bad guy's car was too fast. And then they called the police. So would you recommend, like, if someone stole from me, should I look at be like, "Fuck"?
No, don't follow the car. I also know that girl's ring that she took. Was it like a Mayfield class ring? She tossed me. So they're down there. near
They were
Mayfield.
from Los Angeles. I don't
Oh,
think so.
okay.
They were there visiting Busch Gardens.
My daughter went to Mayfield. So saw that. So yeah, interesting story. Got a little true crime from Busch Gardens with peacock drama with the Postal Service. We got another topic that we want to talk
Oh,
about.
one more funny scene.
What?
I just have to mention it.
Oh no, here you go.
At one point.
Mhm.
Oh no, I have 2 more funny stories for you. Sorry. In 1916, a truckload of oranges comes to the top of the sunken gardens. They release hundreds of oranges down. Just picture hundreds of oranges falling down. Remember they did that campaign, I think in San Francisco, where they released like a whole bunch of like bouncy balls. So imagine that, but oranges at Busch Gardens.
Well, World War I is going on in Europe, and people are starving over there. They're just throwing oranges willy-nilly here in Pasadena.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the oranges to go around here.
Yeah, we definitely did have the oranges.
We have the oranges. The other funny story was 1914. This poor guy, he comes to Busch Gardens and he's looking around and he sees the sign. It says, "For Presbyterians only."
Huh.
He's like, "But I'm a Baptist. I'm not allowed to go to Busch Gardens. Why not?" So he's like very incensed. He's like, "What the hell is this? I thought this is open to everyone." He goes up to some guy and he's like, "What do you mean this is open for Presbyterians only?" And the guard is like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, I saw a sign. It said, open for Presbyterians only." He's like, "You mean pedestrians?" It was open for pedestrians only. He's like, "Oh, someone, when I wasn't looking, someone changed that sign before it said Presbyterian."
I just want to know how this like illiterate guy, seeing the word pedestrian, got a harder, longer word out of it in his mind.
Okay,
You know.
he might have been dyslexic. Don't judge. You don't know.
guess
It
so.
happens. Words get mixed around.
Yeah, really indignant. And this is 1914 indignant, so it's worth more. 2026 indignant. It's definitely.
What is that, silly or somehow?
I don't know. Yeah, and I mean, when you think about a place like Pasadena, and you think about all the cultural institutions and museums, it really kind of brings to the fore that this is an old city. Okay, we've been around as like the Indiana colony before we were incorporated since 1784 or 17, and we've been here since 1886 as a city, we're the second oldest incorporated city in Los Angeles County. And there's a lot of old stuff in the city. Because of that, just like Pasadena has like an overabundance of like private schools and museums, and we have an overabundance of antique stores and thrift stores. Again, because we're an old city. Now, Pasadenans love our antiques. You can go to the big antique center down there on South Fair Oaks. You have the big antique mall over at the Paseo. There's antique stores and thrift stores. There's probably like 5 or 6 Goodwill stores in the center. Who knows how many of these things, And Alyse and I were just at at that 2-story place on Sierra Madre over there from Habitat for Humanity, their restore shop. And Pasadenans, they get really particular about our antique stores and our thrift stores. And even here, when you go, and also I'm gonna throw in the flea markets too, the Rose Bowl flea market, the PCC flea market. There's so much old stuff that's floating around this city that it's almost like a point of pride that we have these antique stores, thrift stores, flea markets. We have all this old stuff, but Pasadenans, we're kind of like pricier even about our stuff. Like if you come to an antique store in Pasadena, or even the flea markets or the thrift stores, you're gonna pay a little more than you do if you go to an antique store, say, in Covina, or a thrift store, in Glendora, or even out there. I remember I went to a flea market once. That they had a flea market over in at Fairfax High School on the west side, and the stuff there was like, I couldn't believe how cheap it was. Like the same stuff would cost 20-30% more at the Rose Bowl.
Everything's more expensive in Pasadena.
So factor that into your whole snobbiest, whatever you want to thing.
I remember I went to the antique mall, I think it was like 10 years ago, and they had a water bottle, just a plain water bottle, but it was from the show Lost, and it had that old airline. I forget what the airline was on Lost. I think just that water bottle was like $20.
Yeah. And I get it. And people, people are gonna have their own opinions about pricing and the prices of these places. Lisa and I made a TikTok yesterday about that 2-story, that restore place on Sierra Madre, and then like some 15% of the commenters are talking about the prices.
Yeah.
And that's a big topic whenever we make one of these videos about one of these stores or something. Everybody's always talking about the prices, and people get a little sensitive about well, that's too expensive there. Even St. Vincent de Paul, we did that one. That gigantic thrift store here in LA. People were all kind of up in arms about how it's overpriced now, and so.
I mean, honestly, it really just depends on what it is.
It is. It depends on the stuff that you're looking at, and two, you have to remember there's a difference between an antique store and a thrift store, and sometimes they kind of mesh. Like this one on Sierra Madre Boulevard here in Pasadena. The restore place is kind of a hybrid antique store, thrift store. So a lot of their stuff is antique, and the prices will be kind of commensurate to what you would see maybe down at the Pasadena Antique Center or the Antique Mall.
Yeah, the first floor, their booths were a lot more antique-y.
And so it's gonna be there's definitely a difference if you're looking at antiques versus thrifting. Like true thrift store, like Savers in Arcadia, or the Goodwill down on South Fair Oaks. Or the Salvation Army. It's gonna be, there is a difference in prices. But even I just saw an article today online that talked about how even thrift stores are getting expensive. Like the prices overall, I think in general, not just in Pasadena, are kind of getting a little higher for some people.
They are. Like antique stores are very snobby, in my opinion. Not the same with thrift stores, but antique stores. And like there's this old idea that, like in rich, wealthy families, that you should be decorating your home with not new furniture, like, the blue bloods, they want to like reuse the old furniture and not buy new ones because it's a sign of your, I don't know, your pedigree or something like that. So does that explain all the antique stores in Pasadena?
Who knows? But I mean, there's just a city this old, there's so much old stuff lying around. It makes you wonder how long some of these items have been rolling around in some of these stores. And It was kind of, there's like a lot of bizarre stuff that you find.
I have a very important question that has
Mm.
been rolling around my mind ever since we saw the mortician.
I knew it was gonna have to do with true crime.
You knew.
Mm.
The mortician about the Lamb family.
Yes.
And so you know that David Sconce and his lackeys, they were selling, like they would take clothes, jewelry,
Yes. From the deceased
shoes, anything
cadavers.
off of the dead bodies
Oh,
and then sell them. Their whole thing was they wanted to make money, right? So
Right.
whatever they could sell, they would. So they were selling body parts to the hospitals and stuff.
the corneas and,
Yeah.
and whatnot.
My
yeah.
question is, these clothes they took off, the boots, the clothes, the, whatever.
Polyester slacks and the blazers. And,
Where did they sell these to?
Alyse, I remember you brought this up when we first saw that documentary, and this kind of segues into our
Yeah.
our antique store, thrift store topic, because when you look at some of these clothes that we see at these places, some of them are like dated clothes, and some of them are clearly clothes you would have seen, at least I would have seen in the 1970s, the 1980s, and they're still in these thrift stores. They're still there, and they roll around, and maybe see people buy them, in one decade, sell them again, or donate them
Yeah.
again back to, how many times has some old pair of clothing
Yeah.
been re-gifted, redonated, regifted
Yeah.
back to the same thrift store that it was originally purchased from.
Yeah.
So Alyse brought this up when she saw the mortician. How many of these dead cadavers' clothing was sold to those thrift stores
To
in
a
Pasadena?
thrift or antique store in Pasadena.
And then how many people unwittingly bought and are walking around with some
Yeah.
dead dude's blazer?
Yeah, like that blazer was on a woman that was dead, or these cowboy boots were ripped off of some guy. Like you never know.
Yeah. And in all fairness, like a lot of these old vintage clothing that you might find at your favorite vintage clothing stores also might be from a dead person, but we trust they weren't like taken straight off the dead body in the funeral home, like in the mortician, and sent to the
Yeah,
rats.
but in the mortician, they
Yeah.
were doing that, and
They're
they were
straight
doing
off
that
the
right
dead
here
body.
in Pasadena. So I'm like, some must have gone to these thrift stores, antique stores. And I've donated clothes to some of these places before, and then I'll come back to try to do thrifting, and I'll see my old clothes there still. So I'm willing to bet that's in some of these thrift and antique stores, there is still some belongings from the poor lamb victim.
So if you're really nervous about this topic, just avoid any clothing that looks like it's from an older person in the 1970s or 80s, and you'll probably avoid one of the Lamb true crime cadaver clothes. I guess that's my best advice.
I guess. I'm just like, what if it's like a really, really cute coat or something? Like, would I risk it?
Oh, would you?
I'm
Like a
not.
little furry coat.
I'm not really afraid of ghosts,
Just make sure it's clean.
Yeah, like we went to the Whaley House, the most haunted house in all of America, apparently.
Down in San Diego.
The tour guide's like, "You guys believe in this?" We're like, we just like the history.
But yeah, so we have that going for us. So you have the antique stores, cultural institutions, the gardens, and the peacocks.
We were wondering, I don't know if it was last episode or the one before, I think it was last episode, about the presidents that had come to Pasadena.
Yes.
Taft came to Busch Gardens,
Okay.
and so did Theodore Roosevelt.
He was at Busch Gardens.
Theodore Roosevelt rode, they said that he rode around Busch Gardens. I picture it was on a horse, but they didn't specify.
Is this pre-San Juan Hill or post-San Juan Hill?
I don't know. Don't make me look up the date. So he was riding
Pre-Rough
around.
Rider?
He basically has his reign of Busch Gardens. He wants to find, I think, Mr. Fraser, the one that designed the whole thing. So he goes, he finds Fraser. And so imagine like Teddy Roosevelt like galloping up to you.
Teddy Roosevelt got his idea for the battle plan of San Juan Hill while riding around Busch Gardens.
Okay, so listen to this. He gets to Mr. Fraser. He's like, "Are you the one that created these magnificent gardens?" Mr. Fraser's like, "Why, yes, I am." Do you know what Teddy Roosevelt says to him?
What?
"Bully for you."
You love that.
Bully for you.
Alyse looks for every opportunity to say bully for you and
Bully
huzzah.
for you. Huzzah. And on that end, we're at 30 minutes, so we will.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm sure you got some very arcane information that you may or may not find useful, but be sure to tune in next week for another
Little old podcast from Pasadena.